Mr. President, I rise today to honor Louis Amabili, a true Delawarean, a fantastic and dedicated and tireless volunteer, a gentleman who dedicated his life in service to others. Mr. Louis J. Amabili, the son of Italian immigrants, rose from volunteering at his local volunteer fire company to become one of the most important and trusted voices of the American Fire Service. Lou passed away just last Thursday, September 28th. Lou was a giant in the fire service community, and his decades of dedicated service are a testament to how much he cared about his calling and his neighbors. Lou was a legend in the Delaware firefighting community, and especially in my small hometown of Hockessin, Delaware. Lou proudly served the Hockessin Fire Company for 70 years, holding every position one could possibly hold: chief engineer, first and second assistant chief, along with vice president, president, president emeritus, and director. Lou was a humble, down-to-earth, passionate, and caring gentleman. He rarely sought the limelight, even as he was often thrust into it. He could walk into any event, whether a national convention or just a local meeting, and know individuals' names and make them feel like they were the most important person in the room. Lou embodied the term public servant that so many of us aspire to, yet he quietly and with dignity achieved for decades. He heard his calling to serve his community, and he embraced it with dedication and a quiet passion. There was no greater ally of firefighters in Delaware or across the country than Lou. His continued service of 7+ decades set the highest standard of dedication to the volunteer fire service. I first had the honor of meeting Lou back about 2000 when I was county council president. And over my decade of service in Newcastle County government, Lou was a frequent source of powerful advice, encouragement, insight, and occasional correction. I always look forward to seeing him, whether at a county meeting, a state meeting, or at a national organization meeting. I was always certain I'd get honest, direct, and constructive feedback from Lou about how things were going at home and how things were going nationally for America's firefighters. Lou's nationally recognized service is long and impressive. He first gained national recognition in the fire service when President Richard Nixon appointed him to serve on the National Commission for Fire Prevention and Control in 1970, the commission which produced the landmark report, America Burning. A graduate of Conrad High School and of the University of Delaware with a degree in chemistry, Lou was appointed the first director of the Delaware State Fire School in 1964 and served in that capacity for more than 3 decades through 1996. Upon his retirement, then Governor Tom Carper, my senior senator, signed a resolution naming the Delaware State Fire School the Louis J. Amabili Fire Training Center. From 1973 to 1980, Lou served as president of the International Association of Fire Service Instructors. From 1978 to 1986, he served as a charter member of the National Fire Academy Board of Visitors. Lou also served on the NFPA Board of Directors for 6 years in the 1980s and was chairman of the Fire Department Instructors Conference in 1979 and 1980. Widely respected by his colleagues, the Congressional Fire Services Institute president, William F. Genoway, said, and I quote, "Throughout his entire career, Lou was fully committed to the health and safety of the men and women who have served in the fire service. He was always eager and willing to share his knowledge with both aspiring and veteran firefighters and cared deeply about preserving the fire service's rich heritage. It was an honor to serve with him for many years on the CFSI Board of Directors. I valued his friendship, as did my fellow board members, his contributions to our organization, and the nation's fire service will preserve his legacy as a legendary leader for many years to come," end quote. While the fire service and the safety of his fellow firefighters was his passion, his family was his love. Lou's wife of nearly 60 years, Carmela, was his constant companion as he traveled extensively to national conventions or local meetings or speaking engagements. Lou's daughter, Janice, his son, Louis Jr., and his wife, Bridget, his grandson, Louis G. Amabili III, and his wife, Lacey, and Lou's great-grandchildren, Liza and Silas, will be forever proud of his legacy of service to Hockessin, to Delaware, and to our nation. Mr. President, Lou was indeed an inspiration to generations of volunteers, of first responders, of firefighters, not just in his home company in our small town of Hockessin, but to all the firefighters of Delaware and indeed our country. Lou Amabili was exactly the sort of man on whom the safety of our nation has been built and whose service and dedication to his community and his neighbors will never be forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the floor.